Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Nearly senior citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this a brand new day. And remember, no matter who you are valid. Oh my God, I hate this chair. It is such a struggle to move. It's free, but it doesn't. You cannot travel in a straight line on this thing. It has a mind of its own. If you push it straight, it is going this direction or maybe this direction and then over in that direction. Half the wheels are locked part of the time. So yeah, I need to buy a chair, but I need to live with this until I have money so I can buy a chair. Life is life. Thumbs up, and hopefully your day has been awesome. Things have been fine. I'm just, it's first world problems complaining about a chair. I do have things I want to talk about. I wrote them down and then had to put Cliff's notes down on a actual piece of paper notebook. Which, as a really quick aside, there was a person who has a channel, still is a person who has a channel, where they're talking about ways to make your DMing better when you're running D&D or any other game. And he's talking about the worst parts about him, running an adventure, is the actual adventure itself. It's like, what are you supposed to do? How you're supposed to flip through pages of stuff, or are you supposed, well, people are there, what are you supposed to read? And his big example was, I don't know if they still make these, but they used to have things that, these little yellow books called Cliff's Notes. And there were, if you were going to college and you didn't want to read Dostoevsky's War and Peace, a huge novel that's hundreds upon hundreds of pages, you bought the Cliff's Notes. Which it didn't do the book. It just condensed and summarized all what was the cognizant points so that you had an understanding of the book. And so whenever you condense something down like that, that's just making a Cliff's Notes out of it, which is basically what he says to do. Cliff's Notes it. Write down the stats of stuff, and if it's got a big box of text, just look for your 5 senses stuff and make quick notes on that, quick notes on this, that. So you've cut out 50% of the wordage, and you still have stuff, and if you need to, you can jump to the book. And it's like, yeah, you're just summarizing. And in print, they still make it. There's Reader's Digest. For old people primarily, but way back, decades back, when I was a kid, what Reader's Digest used to do was condense a book. Now, I'd mentioned how, if you didn't want to read Dostoevsky's War and Peace, you bought the Cliff's Notes to get just the high points of the notes. The condensed books by Reader's Digest would take Dostoevsky's huge novel of War and Peace and then condense it down so it's about this big instead. It's still the book, it's still the story, but everything that can be pared out of it is cut out. So they really cut them down way back when. So thumbs up for that. My grandparents had a lot of these Reader's Digest condensed books. You'd get one regular sized book, and it would have 4 or 5 condensed books of big books in them. So thumbs up. At the same time, it was at my parents' house when I was very young, when I knew how to read, so I was still a teenager, I would imagine. I read, because my grandparents had bought the book Pseudo People, a collection of stories, of short stories, from the 40s and 50s and such, about androids and robots and cyborgs that acted like people, and it drove me nuts for decades afterward trying to remember what that was, because I'd never read it as an adult. I'd only seen it as a child until it was within the last 10 years or so I started thinking about it and was able to come up with enough that I think is called pseudo people. Looked it up and yeah. So as much as my memory is terrible, this thing that I'd seen, well, I read the book, but I only read a book. And it stuck with me enough that I remember the title all these decades later. Thumbs up for that. So that was just my way, of course, of honoring the sixth house, the tribe unmourned. Now, the things I've written down, one of the things, I was watching a Technically the Truth sort of thing where the people read off MK, and it's this one guy, Robin, who was doing the reading. And I was just laughing out loud through a large portion of it. One of them was, I have talked before online about how English is less of a language and more of a linguistic assault because it is a nightmare. It's a language that follows other languages down alleys. If they see something that looks shiny in that other language, shank them, take it, and then run. It's ours now. So they were pointing out that there's the phrase, "Will you marry me?" is a marriage proposal. But will you marry me? Well, that's a foursome proposal. And then someone else pointed out that if you go, "Will you marry me?" is a time traveler coming back and spoiling the future for somebody. And then it's, "Will you marry me?" is a cave woman trying to tell the other cave person, Will, who they are when Will has amnesia. English is a linguistic assault. After all, I can't remember how many was's are in it and how many has's, but there's the phrase that if you don't know how to do the inflections on it, it just looks like, it's like was, it's like that. But it's like, unless it goes, when Harry knew what was, wasn't, but was. When you know how to put the inflection on there, yeah, it actually makes sense. The way I said it, it doesn't, but it's one of those things about English. Love that. Anyway, though, I tried to make the game 8-bit dungeon easier because right now one of the big problems with breaking out the game is it is so hard. I don't know how people play it and do well. Because if you turn over a card and it's a hard monster, you have the option of fleeing. But instead of, like in One Deck Dungeon, you just flee. No, you have to roll, and if you don't make the roll, you take damage. So if you come across something that's big, you can either fight it and risk dying, or run and take damage anyway. I mean, which kind of makes sense. But then the next card can be another hard to fight monster. And you can have just a run of RNGs laughing at you as it's just hard monster, hard monster, and you're dead. Now, I've been trying to play it because I don't want it just to be a waste of money. I want to play the game and enjoy it. But right now, while it's fun as a time waster, it takes time to set up. And the amount of enjoyment I get out of it isn't worth the setup right now. So, because I'm starting to, as I've mentioned, I had taken 2 board games out of my collection I have on the desk, I'm trying to cull things out, be less of a hoarding type collector, and only collect and keep the things that I use, which I've had an issue with. I glom onto and hyper-focus on things. Ooh, ADHD, what a surprise. So, if I can't make... I'm knocking things around. If I can't make One Deck Dungeon more enjoyable to play than not breaking it out, make it more fun to play after breaking it out than I would get by not breaking it out at all. Does that make better sense? Then I'm going to have wasted my money like I have with the other two games, and I don't want to do that. Oopsie, dropped the card onto the floor, so I'm going to have to be very careful. But one of the things I've been writing it out was how to do, add different dice. Since the thing is, you roll a d6, monster rolls a d6, you add modifiers on the both, and then apply sticky saliva from a denture adhesive, yay. And then you apply their number to your defense, and that's how much damage you take. Your number to their defense, that's how much damage they take. Now, the one reason I say it's so tough, of course, is I came across on my second card while playing last night a monster that even if I roll a 6, best you can do, I could never hurt it because it has a defense of 6. So, I played with the idea of making it, easy, easier, easiest mode. Easy, you roll 1d6 more. Easier, roll 2d6. Easiest, roll 3d6. I also tried playing with the idea of having the monsters roll as many dice, where I would roll and then choose the highest, and then for the monsters I would roll and choose the lowest. They still ate my head. The game was over fast. Even rolling 2 dice for me and keeping the highest, and 2 dice for them and keeping the lowest, they still ate my head. I don't know how people played this game and actually play the game. I spend my time dying. So yeah, it was a Lamia, swallowed my character, digested her alive. Which, canonically is the best ending for both of us, both the character and for me. Number one, my character was swallowed, digested alive. For me, positive outcome. And for them, they were swallowed whole and digested alive. Win for them, positive character arc. So thumbs up. But for a game, frustrating. So, still working on it. Going on to the next thing. Oh yes, there was also in this Technically True, or a different one about vampires. It's like, the cost of things as a vampire. And then someone was saying, hey, if you were born in 1892 and you're still broke, just walk into the sun. So I was looking at that and it was like, yeah, I'm a broke ass bitch no matter what. If I was a vampire if I was born in 1892, made a vampire within, being fairly young, even now in 2030, I'd be basically homeless with no money. So, yay. Know yourself, even your faults. I keep moving downwards so that my head doesn't go off the top of the screen. And then I have talked about how laughing at human suffering and death is a thing that people do, and it happens a lot in media, and I really like the whole death part. I don't like it, but my monkey brain finds people dying, people being murdered horribly, just, beaten to death with a sledgehammer can be hysterical under the proper circumstances. And I'll talk more about the whole monkey brain on that. But one of the things, I watch one channel, Civvy 11. The conceit behind that is Civvy 11 is in a special jail. He is CV11. I do not know what the CV stands for. Within the canon and lore is probably been explained, probably right there on the front page of his channel. I don't know. But they have been shown the inside of this place. There are a lot of jail cells, but he is CV11. In the latest episode, they did a procedure on him as the thing was going on, and then later on, he made a joke, a pun, and then there was this loud crackling sound, and oh! As, he was shocked or some horrific thing happened, and then silence. And then this other creature, one of the jailer types just went, now pun detected. Then after a few more moments of silence, Civvy just going, fuck. And then it went on with the rest of the video. It's like, so here we are. I laughed out loud at the idea of this person within the concept and fiction of this universe of him being shocked so badly that he was conceivably knocked to the ground by it. And it was such a horrific thing that it took a time for him to get up and recover from it. And I laughed out loud. But again, monkey brain. I mean, we are not descended from monkeys, but we do have a common ancestor. And if you watch some of our primate cousins, especially chimpanzees, when they are together in their colonies, they laugh when others fall down, get hurt, do dumb stuff, and like fall off branches. They laugh. It's funny. It's hysterical to them. One of the biggest shows for a very long time in the United States was America's Funniest Home Videos, and they had a big section on it dedicated to men being hit in the crotch by something hard and then watching them fall down and writhe in pain. And the audience would laugh, and everyone at home was expected to be laughing, and it was a very popular show. Yeah, we laugh at that stuff. Some of it is just the subversion of expectations. It's like, you see, oh, this person is telling the setup for a joke in what is presumed to be a safe environment, and then they are tackled and violently murdered as the punchline. I mean, that's the shock of this to this. It's not the fact that the guy is being violently murdered that is the actual punchline. It is the from here to here that is the shock, and thus it can evoke laughter, because shock and horror can evoke nervous or outright just laughter. As much as Logan Paul, I think it was, went into that one Japanese forest and was roasted for laughing when they found the body. That is a natural human response. When you don't know what to do and you've got something horrible there, a frequent reaction is nervous laughter. It is human. I'm not going to fault him for being a human being. I'll fault him for so much other stuff. I mean, I wouldn't mind if he was beaten to death with a large chunk of metal on a stick. Who knows? I might pay to watch it on TV. But I'm not going to fault him for being a human being and not being able to control something that is something that people do. So, yeah. Now, what else do I have on here? Oh, yes, one of the characters in my setting of the Razor's Edge / Insight is a guy called Stovepipe Johnny. Now, I'm not going to go fully into Stovepipe Johnny and his whole story, because that could be a whole other novel, and I have this big habit of making novels and trilogies of novels out of backstories of characters just so I can start writing about them now. But one of the things that Stovepipe Johnny ends with, after having a big life of adventure, he has a scare toward the end of his life and starts playing it safe. Ends up in a community of older people and then starts thinking more about the past, getting lost in nostalgia, and within a year or two is gone. Now, there are thoughts about, do you think about this sort of stuff and then it brings on this sort of thing? Or does this sort of thing bring on these kind of thoughts? Because it is common for, as your body is preparing to die, you do lose interest in the outside world. It's not a choice you make, it is something made for you. So, same thing. He starts to fade away and then he dies. Now, one of the reasons I bring this up is I use narrative therapy, and I write about a lot of my fears. A ton of my stuff in my settings is about my fears and working through things, working through the death of my wife, working through getting older. And yeah, Stovepipe Johnny slows down, ends up in an older person community, and within 2 years is dead. I'm in a community of older people, and I'm approaching the end of my life. Stovepipe Johnny, except I never did anything as interesting as he did. So, yeah, it's narrative therapy, only I don't know how much I can work through stuff that's a freight train that's gonna, well, it may hurt when it hits, but then once it finishes hitting, lights are all out. Ain't nobody home inside that body anymore. And I have still been playing Las Vegas, Fallout New Vegas. In fact, one of the things I want to do is start recording and showing off periodically where I am. Last time I did that, though, I turned it into a series. I still have that save game where my character has lost her grip. She's going to pick up the cannibal pick. She has, what's her name? Victoria. She's a scribe. She loves her because they are sisters. They have come through so much. And she's going to eat her. So, still have that same game. Save game, not same game. But I'm not choosing to go too nuts in this. My character is morally ambiguous. If you're not morally ambiguous living in the Fallout universe, then you are broken. If you are like really, really good or really, really bad, something is really, really wrong in your brain. If you are morally ambiguous and largely untrustworthy, you fit right in. You have to be that way or you're gonna die. So my character, morally ambiguous, kind of like a cryptid. Cryptids may be the most ethical and moral beings that they can be, but their moral compasses are absolutely and completely broken, no matter what direction it's facing. Give it a spin, and whenever it comes to a rest, that direction is morally and ethically true north. That sort of decision making can also make some of the worst human monsters in history wake up, sweating in the night, thinking of the implications of that. Because what these dictators do is bad. The implications of what these cryptids are saying is, oh, so much worse. And that's basically it. And at 23 minutes in, I don't really have a whole lot of else to say. Unfortunately, I'm not getting out to do as much walking as I would like, because I can't just walk for no reason, and exercise is not a good enough reason. I need to go someplace. There's no place to go that's 6 miles, and Walmart and back is like less than 2. I'm not getting the walking time that I want and need, and that's when I do the bulk of my thinking. So I am not happy right now. And with the weather the way it is too, I don't want to go out walking 6 miles in the rain when I don't have to. When I lived in southern Shelton and needed to buy food, I didn't really have a whole lot of choice. With the amount of money I had, if I didn't walk to Walmart, get stuff to eat, and then walk back, I would not have been able to buy food. So there was no choice, and I got that 6 miles in. Now, it's 2 miles I need to go, and then I don't need to leave here for the rest of the day. I don't like that. And if you are a Patreon patron, thumbs up. Thank you very, very much. But after that rant, I go, hey, thank you, Patreon patrons. Don't have this up yet. I'm going to have the list of names up here again soon, but I do not have them up here yet. You know who you are. You're all beautiful and awesome people. And when you look into the mirror, what is being reflected back at you is the face of someone who is beautiful and awesome, both physically and mentally and spiritually. And of course, if you have written me a comment, thumbs up, and thank you so very, very much. I read and appreciate every single comment except for the ones that aren't nice. I mean, I read those, but I don't really appreciate them. But I do read them, every single one of them. I answer as many as I can. I try to make videos about those that I can't, and if I can't do either, then you are read and appreciated, even though I can't really say anything to show that. So thumbs up and thank you. You are appreciated. So hey, rest of the day, I'm gonna try and do some recording of something like Final Girl, or do another computer game recording of where I am in Fallout New Vegas, depending on how well Bandicam will work on this with things actually running. But it's an older game, so it shouldn't be that bad. Here's hoping. So hopefully you're gonna do what you have to do, and if you can't, don't beat yourself up. It's not gonna help you. You'll be hurting yourself for no good reason at all. So until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and that is indeed a very, very good thing. Notice how my nerve compression isn't killing me. I'm waving my arms in the air like I just don't care. And if you've watched it this far, and I can't imagine very many of you have, thumbs up and thank you much. I did not mean to record for almost a half hour. You take care, and I will see you all on the flip side.